Hello, Storyland Kids. This is Miss Keek, and I'm here to talk to you about Psalm 23. So, we have been studying the Psalms with Pastor JT, and for the next month, all of May, we're going to be looking at one particular Psalm, and it's Psalm 23. And what our goal is to memorize all of Psalm 23 this month. This week, we're going to talk about Psalm 23, verse 1 and 2. And then next week, we're going to talk about verse 3. Then the next week, verse 4. And then the next week, we're going to talk about 5 and 6. And each week, we're going to teach you some motions so that you can memorize that psalm. Now, Psalm 23 is probably the most common or widely known psalm. I'll bet when we start reading it, you'll go, oh, yeah, I've heard that before. The reason it's so popular is because it's really a comforting psalm, and it just talks about how God protects us. And even when we face troubles in life, we know when we read this psalm that God's protecting us every step of the way. So I think what I'd like to do is just read the psalm from beginning to end so we kind of get an idea of the whole thing. And then we're going to just take it down and look at verse 1 and 2. Now, the word psalm means song, and songs oftentimes are like poetry. So this particular psalm is definitely like poetry. It doesn't have rhyming words, but it has just a beautiful rhythm to it. And the psalmist is just telling the Lord and reminding himself that God has him. God is protecting him. God's taking care of him, and he doesn't have to worry at all. So I'm going to read all 6 verses, and you listen and see if they sound familiar to you. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Oh, that was beautiful. So let's take a peek just at verse 1 and verse 2. And then I'm going to show you some motions that will help you memorize each part of the chapter. So Psalm 23, verse 1 says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." I love how the psalmist compares God to a shepherd and makes us like his sheep. Back in the Bible days, shepherds were very important. They provided things for the sheep. Well, they provided really everything that the sheep needed, and the sheep relied on that shepherd to give them food and water and protection and shelter. And the shepherds took their job very seriously. They didn't even want to lose one sheep. They would go looking for it if even one sheep was missing. So a shepherd, comparing God to a shepherd, is very appropriate because he doesn't want us to go without food or water or protection or shelter. And if any of us are missing, he pursues them and goes after them to bring them back into the fold. So we know with God as our shepherd, we don't have to want for anything. He meets all of our needs. Verse 2 kind of continues that thought. It says, he makes me lie down in green pastures, and he leads me beside still waters. We don't have to worry about where we're going to lay our head to sleep because he provides really wonderful places. Just like for the sheep, it says green pastures, and he leads us by still waters. Now, if you think of a choppy, wavy water, that would give you some anxiety and it wouldn't be comforting, but he leads us by nice, calm, still waters. So we've got Psalm 23, verse 1 and 2. Now let me show you some hand motions that go along with it. Are you ready? Okay, they go like this. The Lord is my shepherd. You take the L for Lord and you make it like a banner from one shoulder to the opposite waist, and then you take it and move it around in a circle like the sheep, like it's protecting over the sheep. So the Lord is my shepherd. And then you go like this. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. And this is sign language for lead. You take one hand with the thumb up, and then you take the other hand and wrap it around so it's like two thumbs are up and one is leading the other one. So it's he leads me beside still waters. Okay, you got it? Let's try it one more time. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. Good job. We'll talk next week about Psalm 23, verse 3. This week, really keep practicing verses 1 and 2 and just hide them in your heart. I'll see you next week. Why don't we stand up to learn the hand motions for this one? Go ahead and stand up, and it looks like this. The Lord is, oh, that's not what it looks like. Why don't we go ahead and stand up to learn the hand motions, okay? Stand up, and I'll show you what they look like. The Lord is my shepherd. This one's like L for Lord. That's sign language, L for Lord. And you take it from one shoulder and make it like a sash. The Lord is my shepherd. And it's kind of like the Lord looking over and protecting all of his sheep. So the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. And you're kind of just scooching it away because you have nothing that you need. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures, and he leads me. Take a look at this one. This is sign language for lead. It has a thumb up, kind of like a person, and then you take your other hand and move your fingers around it and put that thumb up too, like one person leading the other. So it's he leads me beside still waters. Okay, let's try it all together. All right, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. Good job. I think you're getting it. Practice that verse all week long. Practice the motions. And then next Tuesday, I'm going to teach you verse 3. We'll talk about what it means, and then I'll teach you movements, and then we'll do 1, 2, and 3 together. So we get a little more practice on 1 and 2. All right, I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.